Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Planet Film Network. I'm one of your hosts, Sean Monk.
I'm your other host, TJ Cornwell, and tonight we're going to be reviewing the long-awaited Barbenheimer. Barbie and Oppenheimer came out this past weekend, so we're going to be reviewing those two. And I don't. There's not much else to talk about, honestly. I think that's like what our main show is going to be. It's just those movies,
Yeah.
unless you have anything else in mind.
The only thing I have is I just have a short review that I want to do for something up top that is not that, and then the only other thing really is just I want to get into this movie's the other story with this movie, which is the insane box office record, not just breaking, record smashing, annihilating that both Oppenheimer and Barbie were able to accomplish this weekend, which is kind of crazy. But first, TJ, what have you been watching this week? I know you watched one thing for sure that I'm very
Oh, I
interested to get
did.
your thoughts on.
Oh, I did. And I just want to have a quick conversation about that when we get to it in a second. So other than Barbie and Oppenheimer, I rewatched Monsters Inc. Great movie, fantastic
Yeah.
film. Doesn't look like Toy Story, as in does not look worse in a. Actually, I don't know if it's 4K on Disney Plus, but it still looks good. So if they up-resed it or anything, I don't know, but still looks good, unlike Toy Story, which does not. Looks very, very fake. Obviously, I watched Barbie and Oppenheimer, and I watched two documentaries. And just a quick side note on this. I recently, this is going to be like, the most ridiculous thing, but I recently found a newfound appreciation for the library. So I signed up for a card like a few weeks ago, and that's actually how I watched the movie we're going to talk about real quick as well.
Oh, okay.
I watched these two documentaries, and they have like a service, and this is like I think like libraries like all around the country. They have a service where they have like shows and movies and stuff that you can just stream instead of actually having to like borrow them or whatever.
Yeah.
So there was this documentary called At the Drive-In. So basically, it's this documentary about this drive-in in Pennsylvania that was losing money very quickly, like as all drive-ins, they're kind of fighting for their life.
Yeah.
And they only had a 35 millimeter projector, and they did not want to digitize, nor did they have the money to digitize, because they were saying like, oh, we need $50,000 for a projector. We don't have that. So it's about them like kind of basing the whole kind of gist of the drive-in on like showing these old movies and talking about how starting, I forget what year it was, but studios were like, we're not going to be doing the film prints anymore. It's going to be like strictly digital, and like if you want digital, then you have to get rid of like your film projector. Like you can't have both, apparently, which I didn't know. So basically how they're surviving and stuff like that. And the documentary was 2017, still open today, which is really nice to see.
Nice.
I forget what the drive-in, like what the name of it is, but it's in Pennsylvania. But yeah, they have like a bunch of themes like every night and or every week, and different directors, different double features. It's really cool. So I watched that, and I watched Out of Print, which is basically a documentary about the new Beverly Cinema that
Okay.
bought in 2007.
Yeah.
And basically, where it started, who opened it, etc., and then kind of just like the magic of it and why people love going there, which is really cool to watch too. So I'm gonna record this because I might post this to TikTok, but movie I want to get your thoughts on, but I also want to just say my thoughts as well. I brought home two movies last night from the library. I brought home First Man, which I haven't watched yet. I haven't seen. And then I also brought home Ghostbusters Afterlife, which I hadn't seen, obviously. And came out 2021. I just kind of missed it, I was like, I'm not going to go to the theater to watch, Ghostbusters. I'll watch it whenever. And so I popped it in and didn't know what to think. I knew maybe like the reviews hadn't been like the greatest in the world. And I I know they're making another one, which kind of is surprising because I didn't think this one did all that well. And I will tell you, not good, in my opinion. Not good at all.
Ooh, swing and a miss.
It just lacks like anything that I enjoyed about Ghostbusters 1. I even like, I mean, it's been a while since I've seen Ghostbusters 1 or 2. I haven't seen 2016, so don't ask me about that. But yeah, it just lacks like any of the comedic value that I liked about the first two movies. Finn Wolfhard, I don't know what he's doing in this. They didn't give him anything to do. Neither did the girl who plays like his kind of love interest. She didn't have much to do either.
Yeah.
I didn't think the whole story with the mom and the Egon like abandoning her when she was a kid and all that stuff, that none of that really worked for me.
Yeah.
J.K. Simmons is in it for 2 seconds for some reason, and then he just immediately gets split in half. Don't know why. I don't know why he's in it. I did care about let me get her name. I forget.
Olivia Wilde.
Phoebe McKenna-Grace.
Mm-hmm.
No. Is that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Her
so.
character.
Yeah, McKenna-Grace.
Yes, I cared about her.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I cared about.
Yeah.
And I was shocked to see that she was like the main character because I figured it was Finn Wolfhard. I was like, Finn Wolfhard.
Gotta be him. Yeah.
Gotta be him. Not the case at all. So I did care about her. I liked her story, her development towards the end. Paul Rudd, he was doing his best. He was funny at times. Nothing too fantastic. Did I laugh a handful of times? Yes, but not as much as I would have liked to.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It just none of it. It all felt so disjointed to me. It was just like all of a sudden, like we dropped Finn Wolfhard off of this restaurant to get a job, and then next he like is starting to fix the car all of a sudden. But I'm like, well, why is he doing it? Like he never like expressed like any interest. He just kind of like bumps into it and is like, oh, a car, and then he's like putting it together, and he's not really like. It should have been like a Phoebe and Finn Wolfhard kind of them together discovering it. Instead of it's like we're gonna give Finn Wolfhard this lore dump as he's driving them to the mountain.
Yeah.
I thought it was ridiculous that they named that kid Podcast. That is ridiculous. Give him a fucking name, for Christ's sake. Podcast?
Wow.
At least say like, oh, my name's this, but they call me Podcast.
Yeah.
Fine. But like to give, this younger actor who, is a minority actor, just call him Podcast. I was like, that's just like, it just felt weird and wrong.
Yeah.
Same with his who played Finn Wolfhard's love interest? Celeste O'Connor. Lucky. Like what? What are we doing?
And I get the whole like, I don't know if it's like, well, they're not in a big city. They live on the, it's like people from that area of the country as opposed to like
they don't
New
live
York
in a
City,
big city. They live in a town in the middle of nowhere. Yet there's the super Walmart down the street that Paul Rudd walks into. I'm like, what is this like in the middle of nowhere? Are we in like a pretty well known place? Like which one is it?
It's like
the movie just like
Krispy
annoyed
Kreme.
me. The movie just like annoyed me. And I don't know. I was just happy it was over. And gave it 1.5 stars. Tough to watch. Don't know why they're making another one. I did it do
I think
that
they're
well?
making 2 more. I'm pretty sure they're doing an Afterlife trilogy. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
That was brutal. No thanks.
But this next one is going to be cold.
What do you mean cold?
I don't know. But it's the logo was covered in ice.
By the way, what was the consensus on the Ghost? Do people like that or?
I can't really remember, to be totally honest.
He's been dead since I think he passed away 2014.
Oh, you just I was like, when you said the Ghost, I thought honestly when you said the Ghost,
like the Ghost,
my brain immediately went to like the new Slimer thing, and I was like, I don't remember people's opinion on that guy.
Metal.
Yeah, the Egon thing. I think it's just like used a lot as the example of like this is either the most heinous act of cinema or it's or it's but his family wanted it, so it's very thoughtful and everything. It's like there's no in
Yeah.
between. I feel like I think just the only thing I can judge it objectively on is the look. I do think it looks good. I do think it's one of the better
Mhm.
looks for that, and I know that it was actually an actor with facial prosthetics mixed
Oh,
with
okay.
some
Yeah.
CG elements, basically.
Just as a quick
So that
heads
was
up,
interesting.
it
Yeah.
sounds like you are talking through your webcam. FYI, it does not sound like it's coming through your mic. But yeah, it was just kind of, I don't know. I was expecting a little bit more,
The
especially coming from
podcast
Ivan
will
Reitman's.
sound good.
Yeah, I was especially coming from Ivan Reitman's son,
Yeah.
and it just none of it really worked for me. But I was surprised to see, like, looking at some other reviews and stuff. Well, it seemed like some people liked, like, a decent amount of people liked it at least, which I was like, oh, good for them. But I don't know, it was not for me, unfortunately.
Jeez. I don't know. It has me talking through my mic.
Oh, go
I
to
don't know.
Discord settings again. Did you update the
Yeah, but
input
it's
device?
already. Yeah, it's got it set to. They're right there.
Oh, Scarlet, yeah.
I do not know. Let me. Ay, ay, ay.
I know that's very odd.
Where even is the droid cam? Or the stream cam? There we go.
It might be
Now,
your
now it
you
maybe
have the
sounds like it.
I was about to say, do you have the phantom power on?
I
Or the
think
48
so.
volt on the mixer?
Man. Sorry for the delay as well for the show today. It's just audio issues never cease. Yeah, I mean it says it's
Found it? What
we're just
was
gonna
it?
move. We're just gonna move on. We're just gonna move on. So what I have been watching, the first thing. Oh my god, I can't even believe that. And now Letterboxd freezes up on me. There we go. I have begun my Star Wars Rebels rewatch in earnest. I'm very much enjoying that. I think I'm on episode 10 of season 1, so obviously plan is to be done by Ahsoka. So yeah, I've been watching that. That has been really great. And then the one thing that I do want to go a little bit deeper into here is TJ. I feel like I willed this into being when I think it was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I sent you a picture of a comic book centered around Adam Eve from
Oh,
the
yeah.
Invincible universe. And then lo and behold, at Comic-Con this weekend, Robert Kirkman gets up on stage and he goes, "Oh, and by the way, as this panel is ending, there is a Adam Eve origin special on Amazon Prime right now for our first Invincible episode in a year and a half." Did you get a chance to watch this?
I didn't watch it. I didn't feel like it was like, maybe it is necessary to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still like invested in the show, but I also like read the whole thing. So
Yeah. So
I
you
don't
kind
know.
of, yeah.
I know what happens, but also like I don't know. I didn't feel like this was like a necessity for me to watch.
That's totally fair. I thought it was very fun. I did watch
Mhm.
it, and I was very excited for it just to get a new piece of this world, type of thing, and the fact that it was kind of like an origin story thing, I thought was very interesting. And I like Adam Eve as a character with how far up I've read into the compendium, in the first compendium. I really, really like her, and I really, really liked her in the first season of the show.
Mhm.
And it's, if anything, also it's really making me want to rewatch the first season of the show. But I thought the special was really, really good. As good as any of the best episodes of Invincible. So like basically episode 1, 7, or 8, I would put it up
Mhm.
there with that. not as graphic maybe as the train situation, but there's definitely that invincible, graphic nature of some of the fight scenes and everything, especially towards the end. But also, it was just a thing that, like you said, I don't think I thought of it as required viewing or anything, but I was just like, okay, I'm excited for this and I'm interested in the character enough. I think if you gave it a watch, I think you'd really end up enjoying it, because I really think it kind of bonds you more to her character, and I also just thought that her origin story was super interesting. It's kind of an amalgamation of different cliches, but that's kind of how every single superhero origin story is these days. But they kind of go the sincere route of, understanding that, her origin story is similar to very many other superheroes, and they don't do the thing where they try to like run in the opposite direction of like, trying to subvert your expectations. They're just like, this is a, she has a kind of standard, hidden past, secret family, science experiments gone wrong type, all the regular stuff that you'd find in a hero origin is here. But it's done just really, really well, and the voice cast is incredible. It's got Stephen Root, Fuchs from Barry, and he's basically guest spotting on, I think, every show you can possibly get on this year. But he is really, really good in a supporting role here. Also, since it is a prequel, there are certain members of the Invincible universe that show up, which was kind of cool as well. As well as some surprises that didn't. Somebody specifically that I was like, oh, I'm assuming that he's going to show up at some point, and then did not, which was very interesting. But yes, the Adam Eve special on I almost said Paramount, on Prime Video right now is out, and it is very, very good. But yeah, those are my thoughts on it before we get into some Barbenheimer talk. Is there anything else? Any other like big news stuff? I feel like
I don't think so.
I'm like blanking here.
I mean, did you just actually quick thoughts. No trailer reaction for this, because I watched the trailer. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to me, I did not know the Exorcist trailer was going to be put at the front of Oppenheimer.
Whoa!
So, I'm sitting there in the theater, me and Danielle, and, it starts off with the, kid missing. What happened to, these two kids? And Danielle was telling me, she's like, oh, maybe it's like maybe it's another kind of prisoners movie, kids, missing, we have to find them. And then quickly, as soon as I think Ellen Bernstein showed up, or maybe even the score started to hit, I said, oh, this is The Exorcist. And I immediately tilted my head down towards the ground to not watch, because very scary. What'd you think of that trailer?
I have not seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Okay,
no,
well,
I have not seen it.
Wasn't it in front of your movie?
No, it wasn't.
In front of your Oppenheimer? No.
The only Oppenheimer I saw was in... or you saw it in IMAX?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay, that's why. Never mind. I thought for a second you did. I only saw it in IMAX, so it's a different playlist. It's just IMAX is just the IMAX trailers.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. But so I've avoided on there, and then I didn't even I almost completely had forgotten about it until I got home today, just because work has obviously been very busy the last few days. So I just didn't get a chance to like look on YouTube or anything, and I saw like all the trailer reactions were out, and I was just like, oh god, I guess that's gonna be out. But then I was like, I don't really know if I want to watch this. Like I'll probably watch the movie, but the trailer, I was just like, I don't know. Maybe I'll watch it a little bit later. But
very, very
certifiably scary.
Low percentage chance I'll watch it. Was very scary to me, at least. I saw the original. And, it was really good, but again, it scared the shit out of me. So I was like, I don't think I need to watch any Exorcist movie ever again. And to me, just having it being done by the people that did the Halloween trilogy most recently does not instill a lot of confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's two things. I think that's fair, and I think that's surprising. I mean, I feel like that Halloween trilogy, everybody really kind of unanimously agreed, like, it just got off to an incredible start, and then they were like, all right, they're coming back, they're saying that it's going to be one trilogy, and then it's over, which, you know, fair enough. They stuck to that, so far, at least. It's only been 6 months, so who knows. But so far, they've stuck to that, and, man, I don't know. They just really did not plan those out very well. So, again, I know this is a two-parter. So it's not a planned trilogy, but it's a planned two-parter. And I think that the second part may actually have already filmed, I believe, because I think it's one of those things where the next one is just coming out immediately next year. Kind of just like they did with Halloween. Or just like they really tried to do with Halloween for the second one. But yeah, I think maybe a couple more trailers, and then a big one is going to be the word of mouth, I feel like, on this movie. If the word of mouth comes out and it's just, or like, you know, not good at all, then I don't even see the point. But if somebody comes out and they say, hey, here's this super scary horror movie, and it's actually worth it, then I will make time to, you know, try to go to the theater and everything like that. But if they say it's a lot more Halloween Kills or Halloween Ends, then you got nothing from me.
What would a tag? Can you think of a tagline, as in, like, you know, along the lines of "Evil Dies Tonight"?
Oh,
The Exorcist.
It's called The Exorcist Believer.
Believer, yeah.
Okay, I think I just thought of like an incredible one. So you know the first Superman movie, one of the most famous taglines in movie history, "You'll believe a man can fly."
Okay, yep.
All right, here we go. The Exorcist Believer. You'll believe a ghost can die. There you go. There it is. That's more of a poster tagline, I guess.
The demon dies in this one, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. So, like, is The Exorcist, is it just one demon? It's just the same demon in the movies?
I don't know. I've never seen, 2, 3, 4, etc.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough.
It's the voice is the same, basically. So I'm assuming it's like the same one as the first one.
Is Max von Sydow going to be in this one?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, okay. Maybe with a backwards hat. Oh, that's what I want. All right. What are your thoughts on? So we just had Barbenheimer, not even in our rear view mirror, not even in our bright pink rear view mirror, and people are already discussing the 2024 beautiful weekend that is. Oh wait, yeah. Oh no, that's this year. Sorry, not 2024. The September release date that people are gearing up for, which is Saw Patrol. Have you heard about this?
Patrol.
Saw 10 and Paw Patrol are coming out on the same day, and the whole internet is readying themselves for Saw Patrol. What do you think?
I don't think it'll have
make $500 million.
I don't think it'll have the same impact, but what I will say about Saw 10, right? Saw 10?
You better believe it.
Is that I think it's ridiculous. It's a prequel.
I've said for a long. Hey, listen, I am gonna see Saw 10 no matter what.
Yeah.
Because I am somebody who, even myself, I enjoyed Spiral just because it was a Saw movie. But I also hated Spiral because obviously it did not bring back Tobin Bell. You cannot have a true Saw movie without Tobin Bell. I will defend Alden Ehrenreich, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the show, as Han Solo to anyone. But I'm sorry. There is not Saw unless it's Tobin Bell. I'm sorry. So, to go to the point of the prequel, absolutely chaotic, insane Saw franchise energy on that decision, for sure. Like, the man is 75 years old, and they're like, this one's actually set right before he died. Oh, how old was he? How old was he in that movie? He was about 50 when he died. That was. How many movies? Which movie did he die in? Well, technically, he started dying in 2, but then he died in 3. But this is the 10th one. It's like I was just hoping that they would just say screw it and just say, oh, he's alive again. Just say the death was a
Right.
fake out the entire time. And now, if they make a Saw 11, I still think that's on the table. I also still think that it's on the table to bring back literally anyone that has been in this franchise before. I mean, the first movie, obviously, you had Carrie Elways. Slight spoilers for the Saw universe. The first movie is not the last time that you see Carrie Elways. So I think that you could bring him back as kind of a bigger name to attach to this franchise. He was just in the Mission Impossible movie. But I gotta say, literally having no other information other than this is a prequel set between 2 and 3 and that Tobin Bell is back, I am way too excited for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is honestly probably my 4th or 5th most anticipated for the rest of the year. Which is, I never thought I'd see the day, but here we are.
Right.
Move
it. Okay. We talked about a few other things. So let's get to, before we actually get into the movies themselves, let's talk about the box office, because it's been a huge week, to say the least.
Understatement of the century. So, first off, let's see if this works. Can you guys see that? You can see that. Awesome. Okay.
Oh, so, by the way, sorry. Can you share your other screen with me? I can see. Yeah.
You've just been looking at double the entire time?
Yep.
That's funny. Ugh. Oh my lord.
Oh, is it messed up because it's probably
I just
okay.
I just can't click anything to save my life. There we go.
There we go.
So I'm really glad that you all can see this here. So right here, you are looking at the box office chart, which actually has been updated since I looked at this morning with today's estimates. Earlier today, it was literally just right here, where it was just a straight line, straight through the grid, like just going up. I mean, you are looking at making... Right now, it is at $188 million domestically after 4 days of release. And that is just absolutely insane. And like on an absolutely ridiculous scale as well. This movie cost anywhere between, they said, between $125 to $145 million. So you're talking about, probably with this big marketing campaign, it needed $300 million to make its money back. There was people doubting whether it could do that. I wasn't doubting that it might not make its money back, but even as soon as 2 weekends ago, I was like, they're talking about Barbie opening to $60 million. Like, I don't really see how that's possible. And then I saw a ridiculously astronomical number of somebody said it was going to open to $110 million. And I was like, you're dreaming. There is no way it would open to $110 million at all.
You're dreaming.
And then right here on the opening weekend for Barbie, you can see right here, number one. Can I get the full? Oh, I can almost get. If Mission Impossible's name wasn't so long, I could show you guys the top 5 all at once. Number one opened with Barbie at $162 million domestically over
Crazy.
the 3-day weekend. Blew past projections. I mean, you're talking about Barbie opening to quadruple what the tracking said it was going to open to. Because on the low end, people were talking about $40 to $45, $48 million for the original tracking for this movie. So it literally did 4 times that just in its opening 3 days, and that's just domestically. If you go to international, it's almost beat for beat keeping up with itself domestically and internationally. As you can see right there, it's already at $382.3 million worldwide. I mean, this is just a through and through financial smash hit at the box office. On a pretty in-control, reasonable budget for the type of movie that it is. And, you know, if you're talking about some records here... Sorry, I just... literally just had them pulled up. But one's off the top of my head. So, all-time domestic box office for movie based on toys. There you go. boom, take it to, or take that, Toy Story. I was like, why? Sorry, the overlay has been messed up for like 2 minutes, and I did not know why. And it was because when I changed the screen share, I accidentally closed out of our Discord. But we're fine. We are back now. Some of these records are just insane. All-time domestic box office ranked 252 already. Top 2023 movies at the domestic box office is already number 6. And then a big one, probably the biggest claim to fame right now for this movie, is its numbers for the combined opening weekend. It is the 4th highest opening weekend of all time domestically. Kind of talking about the wider Barbenheimer now with both movies combined. It is the 4th highest opening weekend of all time domestically, which is insane when you consider that all 4 of the other ones involved either a Star Wars movie or an Avengers movie, it's just absolutely mind-blowing that a movie about Barbie and a movie about Oppenheimer is what was able to do that. But that is what happens when you have viral marketing that is real and grassroots, the most grassroots you can, that it literally started on social media between people, and somehow managed to go the entire course and never veer off into a politicized thing of it never broke into, well, nobody go see Oppenheimer because of the bomb, or nobody go see Barbie because it's too whatever. You certainly see that people are certainly saying that about Barbie on the internet. But we will talk about that. Ironically, probably that's by far the least political of the two films. But let's talk about the other film, because it is meteoric to, also, by the way, goes without saying, but we should say it, the highest opening for a female directed film ever. Greta Gerwig smashed the record, obviously. And also it's important to point out, too, that most of the top 10 of female directed films that are successful at the box office, most of them, not to say that this takes away anything from their achievements, but most of them are directing pairs, and more specifically, directing pairs with a male and a female. So she, did it all on her own also, too, and I know I didn't mean all on her own, but, very, very big achievement there, taking Patty Jenkins' crown for Wonder Woman, for a movie about Barbie. But there was always a chance that Barbie could hit big. There was never a chance that Oppenheimer was going to make money. That was what people were talking about for the past year and a half, was, well, it's great that Nolan gets to still make these movies, that have no shot at making their budget back. But I'm glad studios are still, letting him take big swings or whatever. There was so much of that going around. And in 3 days, Oppenheimer has made $192.8 million. If you're talking about Barbie 4Xing their projections, Oppenheimer basically did the same thing. Which is... Oh. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Oh, okay. I just heard myself for a second. Sorry. That was weird. Oppenheimer basically did the exact same thing. Oppenheimer was tracking even lower, from $15 to $20 million opening weekend. It opened to $82.4 million domestically. And again, this is another one, just like Barbie, that this movie is not just a hit here domestically, but keeping pace worldwide with its audience. It's brought in $95 million domestically and $97 million internationally. So that's what gets you almost $200 million for Oppenheimer after the first weekend. There was people doubting, how long would it take Barbie to recoup its budget? And if Oppenheimer ever could recoup its budget, and both movies did both of those things in its opening weekend. I mean, just me going personal for a second here. I am a movie theater manager, and I was working all this weekend, and I will tell you, it is easily the busiest weekend that I have worked since Avengers Endgame. Or, maybe not. Hang on. Yeah, I would say since Avengers Endgame, because even Rise of Skywalker, even Spider-Man No Way Home, I don't think was quite as just. I mean, our lobby was just from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. was just full. It was just
Hmm.
insane. I mean, you're talking about we kind of figured that our premium format screen would sell out, which it obviously did. But then we started seeing our bigger normal houses sell out of Oppenheimer, and then Barbie start to sell out, and then every house of Barbie was selling out, and it was just this chain reaction, no pun intended, this chain reaction this whole weekend of just more and more hype, and everybody was wearing pink, or everybody was just excited for Oppenheimer. There was so many Barbenheimer shirts. It really is the story, of the weekend. And if anything, it is the story going to be the box office story of the year. Of the decade, even. It's Barbie is the highest single opening day of the decade. It beat Spider-Man No Way Home's for the single opening record, which is just insane how much money that this movie is making. But really, honestly, at the box office this week, I mean, Elemental is still staying strong, which is surprising. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse still staying strong, which is not surprising. Mission Impossible really kind of took it in the teeth this week.
Hmm.
We'll see if it can bounce back, but it's not looking good right now. And then Sound of Freedom, continues to, do its thing, staying at number 3 in the worldwide or in the domestic box office here. But I will let you know that, whether it's the studio or the theater owners or anything, but it is going down in its theater count. So probably just running its natural course at the box office, because Angel Studios is not this big studio that can support it for many months of a run or anything like that. So I know it is going to be losing a lot of theaters this week. So we'll see where that kind of ends up. But really, obviously, the story here is the top two. But what are your kind of thoughts on just honestly the astounding money that it has been making, but also just this kind of Barbenheimer natural thing that's just kind of snowballed out of nowhere here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is pretty crazy, that it just where the hype started. It felt like uh probably, a few months ago it was started to really become this big thing where it's like, oh, Barbie,
Mm-hmm.
Oppenheimer, two polar opposites, should be two polar opposite demographics. Which
Yeah.
it still is, but you had that report from like AMC saying, oh, we had all however many Stubbs members or whatever bought two tickets two tickets, one to see Barbie and then one to see Oppenheimer, either
Mm-hmm.
before or after one another. Then obviously you have these shirts that these bots are promoting on Twitter. You have people
I will say the
asking.
bots are working. I have seen probably firsthand, not counting doubles. I probably have seen 600 Barbenheimer shirts. Probably
Right.
600, literally.
Yeah. You have people, asking on the red carpet, Ryan
Mm-hmm.
Gosling, what are you going to see? Or, are you going to see Oppenheimer, Cillian Murphy? Are you going to see Barbie, Margot Robbie, asking Nolan, all this
Yeah.
stuff. And it just kind of all came together
Mm-hmm.
and was very, very positive for both movies.
Yeah.
Obviously Barbie being, again, Barbie, I don't want to say more accessible, but probably if you're looking to go to a movie, maybe
Yeah.
is just one you're more likely to see.
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
the more just openly marketed, I guess. Like
right.
it was the movie that was expected to make more, for
Yeah.
whatever reasons that is. Yeah.
Um, but never did I think it would do this much money, and I don't really see this coming weekend. I don't see it really dropping off, honestly. What do we have
Yeah.
coming out? We have Haunted Mansion. I mean, how many people were really begging for a
Yeah.
remake of that movie?
Yeah.
Um,
I have a
well,
feeling it's gonna be Barbie, Oppenheimer,
yeah.
Haunted Mansion at 3, and
Hmm.
Haunted Mansion is proud. Unfortunately, because I still think that looks kind of like a fun movie, and I'm going to see it for
No,
sure.
yeah. Hmm.
But I mean, I think it's gonna pull in maybe a single digit, like take the third spot, maybe a single digit of millions, like seven
Right.
million or something. And that movie was
Um,
not cheap.
and Oppenheimer still has a firm grasp. I don't know what the next like kind of IMAX movie is going to be,
Blue
but
Beetle.
Oppenheimer has. Yeah, that's not for the end of August. I think
Yeah.
is So I don't know how long they keep the IMAX screens for. So you have to factor that. And again, Barbie is for me, I could rewatch it a few more times.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, same with Oppenheimer. I do want to go see both again. Hopefully this weekend, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see this slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. What do you think Barbie's like height is? Like, how high do you think it could like go like worldwide?
I
Do you
mean,
think
you're
we
talking
could?
how high
As
do I
much as
think
I
it
hate
could
to say it,
go?
like, do you think we could hit a bill?
That's a big question. That's a
A
big
good. I
question
mean,
with a capital
that's
Barbie B.
what is it? 380 in 4 days?
380 in 4 days. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I do want to hit here too because I think you're hitting on two really important things, and so is Danielle here in chat. And Danielle and both Michelle both say Danielle says give Greta her Oscar. Michelle said yes, give Greta and Margot Oscars. And then Danielle makes a really good point here, which I feel like I just kind of knew in the back of my mind was true, but I couldn't like put it in words until this. For the people I know, a lot of people are seeing Oppenheimer so that they can say they saw both for Barbenheimer, and then she said parentheses including me. I think that is a good point. It's like what is it? FOMO, right? Like the fear of missing out. Like it's like, well, everybody's going to Barben. Like I'm just thinking of like high schoolers. Obviously, it's summer right now, but still, like everybody's going to Barbenheimer this weekend. Like you kind of have to do it. It's what everybody's doing. A similar thing. This is actually twice we've seen this year. A similar thing with Minions: The Rise of Gru, which actually now that I'm thinking, I think that was the tail end of last year. I think. But with the Minions: The Rise of Gru, you had that whole suit thing, which was again, showing up to the Minions movie in your suit and everything. And I saw firsthand groups of 40 kids coming in, all dressed in suits and stuff. And and that's not something pumped out by studios. That's not something pumped out by anybody in charge of these movies. That's just natural internet. And it's kind of the inverse of the whole Morbius thing that Sony was like, oh my god, they love Morbius, let's re-release it, and then it somehow made even less money, which is very unfortunate for Sony and for Jared Leto. But I just think these natural kind of box office phenomenons are like have got to be what the studios are like. How do we manufacture this? And I just don't think that you can. I think that part of the sincerity of it is why it's successful. It's like you said, it's not the studio going, oh, which one are you going to see? It's just interviewers saying to Chris Nolan, like, oh, which one do you want to see first? And like him having like a fun answer to it or something. And also like, in a lot of again, we talked about this with The Flash of why it wasn't successful. Think about how many hot ones, how many wired autocomplete interviews, how many of these internet shows that both the cast of Barbie and Oppenheimer were on. You go on TikTok all last week and it was all you saw was Barbie and Oppenheimer, either ads and then an Emily Blunt interview and then a trailer for, Barbie and then an interview with Greta Gerwig or something. It was everywhere. It was unavoidable. And I think that really that want to like be a part of it is a big driver. And I think you're right. I don't think it's over. I think the people that missed out on being part of it are going to want to go back to do it again. And I also will tell you firsthand, our local IMAX theater can only fit so many people per day. It can only fit about 1,000 per day. And there is people coming back and going, oh my God, this IMAX is sold out. I got to come back tomorrow. That is happening. And that's happening here. And so imagine then you factor in New York and LA and London and Toronto and Austin and all these big, huge, film going communities that are the biggest in the world. How much money they're driving. I think, all right, let's go over under just because I don't know how we can guess a final number, but over under, I'll say 80% chance that Barbie makes $1 billion. Over or under?
Over 80%. Oh man. I'm gonna say over it, but I just believe that maybe not so much Oppenheimer. Just it's a character study, if you will. It's 3 hours. Um, Barbie is just so accessible. I feel like, and it's a lot of fun,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like that warrants repeat viewings.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with over on that.
Mm-hmm. I think I don't know, man. I can't doubt it anymore. Now that everybody's going to be on the hype machine, it's going to fall
It's
flat. And
almost at
it's
four
gonna.
hundred million
I
in
know.
4 days.
I know. I'm like now. I was literally just saying the sentence. Now it's going to fall flat, and then I was about to say and only make 500, and then I was like,
Right.
it's almost already at 500.
Yeah.
It's gonna make 500. I think if it falls, I think if Barbie tripped today, by the time it stumbled and just like fell flat completely, I still think it would trip its way to at least 700 million. You know what I mean? Like, because it's gonna get, like you said, nobody's gonna care about Haunted Mansion. I'm sorry, nobody's gonna care about it because if you're older and if you have older kids, you're taking the whole family to see Oppenheimer. If you have kids and you have slightly younger kids, but I still wouldn't say like toddler kids to see Barbie, you're gonna go to Barbie. And if you have kids that you just want to show them movies and stuff, you're gonna bring the entire family, and you're gonna come back with people that you didn't get to see it with the first time. So I do think that Barbie, if you go back to those two lines that I showed, right now they're both completely going up. I do think that Oppenheimer is going to start to level out sooner than Barbie will. But I think you hit a good point, which is, Barbie may be the more accessible movie, but think about some of the most prevalent movies in our pop culture are Chris Nolan movies. And that's because of the initial box office run and then its life after that. When you have this many eyes on a Christopher Nolan movie this early on, it's never happened before. You know what I mean? He's never had an opening weekend like this that was not called Batman or Dark Knight. So it's almost this whole new animal of $200 million worth of people watched Oppenheimer in its opening weekend. Those $200 million worth of people are going to talk to their friends. And they're going to say, I know Christopher Nolan's like a big director, but you have to see this one. This is the one that you have to see in theaters. So even though it is the 3-hour epic, I think it has a good shot to, I think we could see Oppenheimer end at like 450. I think that's very reasonable for this movie. And that's on a movie that, people originally thought maybe it would make 150. So I just think there's a lot more story to tell with the box office here. It's quite literally just getting started. And to answer your question earlier, at the very minimum, Universal has a locked-in, guaranteed 3 full weeks of IMAX exclusivity. So it is no other movie is going in there for 3 weeks, and that goes for every IMAX screen in the world. That's not just where I am. That's not just where we are. That's everywhere. So tons of people are going to be able to get to see it, because that's another thing too is Mission Impossible. I talked to a friend of mine, and he said, I was like, oh, did you want to maybe see Mission Impossible? I want to see it again. And he said, well, is it in IMAX? And then he was like, okay, well, if I can't see it in IMAX, then I'll just wait for streaming. And it's like, so some of these things with Oppenheimer, if it did go out of IMAX right away, that probably does deter people. But if you go and it's still playing in IMAX, we could go see it in IMAX still, I think that'll get a lot more people in. And the IMAX ticket makes you more money because it's a more expensive ticket. But guys, let us know what your thoughts are, more so in the comments here about these incredible box office numbers of both of these movies. Let us know what your thoughts are on everything about that. So, next up here, TJ, it's time. We've waited, and it's time to talk about Barbenheimer. Now, I'll let you just go for this. What movie do you want to talk about first? Let's go with that. What movie do you want to talk about first?
I think I would like to go think I'd like to do Barbie first.
Okay, that's exactly what I was hoping for. So, first of all, let's talk a little bit about our viewing experience of Barbenheimer. How did it go? What was your schedule?
Well, I saw them 2 separate days. Unfortunately, didn't get to do the double
Hmm.
feature. So we saw Barbie, I think 7 o'clock on Thursday, and then we saw Oppenheimer same time on Friday.
Yeah.
Both, well, Barbie was regular, obviously, but didn't get to an IMAX for Oppenheimer, so saw that just in a regular format.
See, I I was really wanting to do like as big an experience as I possibly could. So I was really trying to get my viewing of Barbie to be. Oh yeah. So also you said you saw Barbie first and then Oppenheimer, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to know. I want to track to see if it's any different for us because I saw Oppenheimer first. I saw Oppenheimer. I saw them both on Friday only because I was working on Thursday. Um, so I saw them both on Friday, and I saw Oppenheimer in IMAX at 2:50, and then I went out to eat to get something to eat, and then I went to the 8 o'clock I think the 9 o'clock maybe of Barbie. So that was my
Okay.
viewing schedule, and then I will say as well to tip my hand just a little bit. I did yesterday go back and see one of these movies a second
Ooh,
time.
okay. Yeah.
So yeah. So what are your thoughts overall now that we kind of figured out how it kind of looked for us seeing these movies?
Mm-hmm.
Let's dig into Barbie here. Let's and I think at this point I think I would say we can do some spoilers because I don't think
Yeah.
that Barbie or Oppenheimer is a movie that you could really spoil, but I
Well,
will say
we dropped the bomb.
yeah, and I will say if you are worried about not so much spoilers but like specifics,
Mm-hmm.
which to some people I guess is the exact same thing, but maybe stay away from this conversation. But otherwise, we're gonna talk about the Kens and the Barbies and all the inner workings and machinations of Oppenheimer as well. So just you have been warned. But TJ, take it away. What were your thoughts on Greta Gerwig's third directorial effort?
Uh, Barbie was just a whole lot of fun. Um, is it the perfect movie in the world? No, but at the same time, uh, I still connected with it. I felt like, even though it's not catered towards me, they're not specifically talking. Well, I guess they kind of are in some way, but I still had a hell of a time. Ryan Gosling, fantastic. Margot Robbie, fantastic. Will Ferrell, like, even though were his parts, did they wear a little thin at times? Yes, but still really liked him. American Ferrera also great. Whole cast great. Production design awesome. How they brought Barbie world to life with the different set pieces. Felt like a Wes Anderson film at some points. When they're traveling back and forth between the real world and Barbie world. Um, the messaging I thought was really great. Um, the kind of whole, the whole kind of Ken storyline mixed with Barbie, and how he goes to the real world and then he brings the real world kind of ideas that we're living with now and brings them back to Barbie land, and implements them and kind of takes over, and how he used the word patriarchy multiple times, I thought was hilarious and just brilliantly done. The choreography, the music, oh my, like, it all works so well for me, and just so funny. I had a great time. I was laughing my ass off. um if I were to critique it in any, I would say, for me personally, like, the whole kind of daughter mother storyline didn't totally work. I felt like we needed a little bit more there. Um and the ending didn't totally work for me. I wasn't a fan of the ending, really. I mean, the joke at the end was really funny, but I kind of think how we got there, didn't totally work. But even with like that those gripes, I still had like a hell of a time. Like, it was so much fun. Like, I want to go back and see it again. I definitely see myself probably buying it when it comes out on like 4K and watching it again. But yeah, I had a great time. 4.5 out of 5 for me.
I think I had to mute myself because I ate a cashew, but I also kept myself muted because I just didn't want to interrupt you at all. Because I agree with every single thing that you just said, except for one, and that is I just want to read you my friend Alex's review of this movie, or initial thoughts, I should say. I fear it is the perfect film. And just to tip my hand even further, this was the movie that I went back and saw again yesterday.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I am a Ken. And I think that we are all Ken, and we have a certain amount of Kenergy that I think flows through us. And this movie really just had that. And I don't really know what that means, but I think it has something to do with Kendall Roy as well on Succession. I think that that character that's no longer with me, no spoilers. I'm not saying he died. I'm just saying the show is over. I just think that, and I'm being totally genuine here, I think that my connection to that Jeremy Strong performance and Kendall Roy, I think really would have loved these two movies together. And I really thought about him this weekend. But to be more on a more serious note, this movie is incredible. I love this movie top to bottom. I have been singing the songs and humming the songs, and specifically first of all, specifically the two songs that are stuck in my head is obviously "Dance the Night" by Dua Lipa, which who she is also in this movie and is really, you know, funny with like the small bits that she has. And then I Just Ken is, I think, one of the most masterfully done like 6 minutes of cinema I think I've ever seen in my life. I was telling my friend the other day that I think I was going through all the like mainline Hollywood produced musicals, and I think that my pick for like the best set piece musical piece in any movie since Temple of Doom is I'm Just Ken. Just in the just full unabashed Hollywood big musical number just for the sake of doing one. And it's not even the only musical number in this. There's, you know, singing throughout it and dancing throughout it and everything. But it is the one big true, you know, musical set piece of the movie. But not only just that, but just to touch on some stuff that you didn't. And I think another big difference from you and me is, to me, I thought Will Ferrell was perfect. I didn't find a moment that, to me, it was overstretched or overstayed or wearing thin or anything like that. And I'm not saying that you were that harsh on it. I'm just saying I've seen some people, some of their main complaints are, well, I'll just say I've seen a lot of people that, you know, they're just like, oh, it just wasn't for me. And I'm like, I think that's totally fair if you feel yourself separated from a lot of what this movie is talking about. I think it is going to be hard to get into it. But, you know, even if you're not a woman, which obviously we're just speaking from the perspective of both of us are not, you know, I still found myself emotionally moved to tears in comedy, and on the second time with the emotion. That's probably another thing that we'll diverge on is the ending, but we'll get to that in just a second. But I really want to talk the comedy. I mean, the comedy, it is one of the funniest studio movies that we have had in a while. And we've talked about, you know, how come, we talked about it on the show just a couple weeks ago, how come it's just like, you know, every couple of years it's like Game Night and then Tag and then Blockers, and then, you know, every 2 years we're getting these great movies. This summer we've gotten Barbie, No Hard Feelings, and Joyride, all three of which I was laughing from almost start to finish of all three of those movies. So I'm happy about that. I'm happy that, you know, comedy is kind of back in a big way. But some of the individual lines, and if you can think of any, just throw them out here. I know Daniela says the mansplaining of The Godfather really reminded me of you two. Yeah, I not only that, but specifically the shout out of Bob Evans, of Matthew Good's character from The Offer, when he goes, I think and again that's Kingsley Ben-Adir, Gravik from Secret Invasion, which is just so funny that that all the Kens are like people from all these other projects. Like Ncuti Got was in there, and he's just the Doctor from Doctor Who is just one of the Kens. Like I think, and then Shang-Chi is like fighting Ryan Gosling Ken. But yeah, the mansplaining of that, and when he's like, no, but you got to understand it. It blends the auteurism of an early career Coppola with the incredible master of the studio system in Bob Evans. It was just like so hilarious. And then the even the Snyder Cut joke, which kind of was just funny. There. It landed so, and that's the other thing. Both audiences that I saw this with. How was your audience? Because both audiences I saw this with, and the second one, obviously, it was a Monday, so it was trimmer. There was less people, but they were just as enthusiastic and just laughing and everything. Quick thing, while I was working, actually, one of our ushers left the cleaning lights on, and so they called, and I went to turn them off. And when I turned them off, I could hear in the theater everybody cheered when the lights turned off, and they were like, "Yay!" Like it was just like such like a happy environment in every Barbie screening that I saw. But how was your screening, and what were some of the comedy moments that kind of stuck with you or continue to stick with you?
Yeah, it was great. Nobody really talking or anything. Everybody having a great time.
Yeah, same. Yeah, jokes. Nobody being obnoxious.
Right. But no, the Snyder one really stuck with me. The Ryan Gosling, like, kind of, I can try and imitate it, like the kind of like that laugh, kind of, which again, if you remember last week or 2 weeks ago when I was talking about the Flash, that Ezra Miller laugh really annoyed me. But it was coming from Ryan Gosling as like in this kind of weird, obviously again Ken way. Yeah, I don't know. It just really worked for me, and I found that really funny. Just like something another one that for some reason he's seen in like the Mattel office where like it's like they're all running really funny, and like when they get to like the gate and
Barbie
over the gate, and they all get to the gate, he goes, "How do we open this?" And
goes,
just
my key card.
Right, as these like dumb like executives in this company.
Yeah.
And something I also found really funny, and I don't know, again, and I don't know if I said it on here last week, or it was to Danielle or whatever, but like the whole kind of when they first show the Mattel office, and they have all those cubicles and everything's just like gray, and I'm like, that's literally exactly what my complaint is about like companies today. Like again, a McDonald's, for example. Like McDonald's is they just turn all their locations now to like
where's
gray on the outside. Yeah, like where's the color? Like it just again it reminds me of Fairly Odd Parents with the corporate pixies.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or the corporate fairies where they're just all gray and drab, and it's lighten it up a little bit,
and then I love too the joke that they make with that of then when the FBI calls, and the FBI is like this colorful place with all these like maps, and it's like a 5-year-old's idea of the FBI. I thought that was really funny, and then too that whole the Will Ferrell part, like when they're running through there, like it's just so like big and like choreographed, and just like you said, how they're just running like this, chasing after her, and it's just, and he tries to go over the cubicle, and he's like, it's quicker, don't, just trust me, it's quicker, and it's like, and he goes to even in the boardroom scene, and again, another amazing positive of this movie too is they don't go the easy route of making Will Ferrell a misogynist, doofus. At the end of the day, does he say like stupid stuff? Yes, but like he is just like a good guy. Like he's like, they don't make him the villain of the movie, and he's like, you got to get back in the box. Like because the ending of the movie, like, I don't know. To me, I feel like the complaint that people had of like, the movie just forgets about him for, a third. I've seen that a lot. And I'm like, I don't think the movie forgets about him. I think that Greta Gerwig just understands, what the movie's about. And it's like, well, we don't need his character right now because it doesn't make sense. Like, you could say that about, there's tons of classic movies where a character will be more in the middle and more in the end, and not very much at the beginning or something. That's just, how things work. And so I feel like we just didn't see Will Ferrell's character for a while because we didn't need to. We were too focused on Barbie and Ken's, you know, kind of inner turmoil to deal with just, you know, stuff to be funny for the sake of it. Because I do think this movie toes that line of being super comedic, and then also being super heartfelt and kind of down to earth. And then the last joke I just want to throw out, which is just I genuinely think it's one of the biggest laughs I've had in movies in like a decade, is when they're on the pier and right after the other great joke of I think it was a blonde, a brunette, and a tween. They were running that way. Like when they just kept saying the word tween. And then when Will Ferrell's like, this is humans in Barbie Land, this is going to cause things that we can't even fathom. And that guy just looks out like into space and he just goes, like a podcast hosted by two wise trees, or a choir made up of 2,000 young fathers. Like, what is that? What does that mean? And he just looks so haunted by those thoughts.
Right.
I was just like, that is one of the most nonsensical, hilarious things I've seen in a long time. But you kind of talked about the ending didn't really work so much for you, but let's kind of go over to that way of the ending and kind of the more heart aspects of this movie. And then we could talk about, you know, all of the people that we haven't discussed either yet that are in this movie. Mm-hmm. But what were your kind of thoughts on the more like heartfelt stuff and Margot Robbie's performance?
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I thought Margot Robbie was fantastic. The thing that almost got me, and, you know, I was starting to feel it and then it ended. So I didn't quite get to the emotional part of it, but the kind of montage with all the crew members' families and stuff like that, of, you know, either kids growing up or, you know, being a teenager, stuff like that. That really was getting to me as it kept going. And the conversations between Margot Robbie and Rhea Perlman also.
Yeah. Shout out Sid from the Bad Batch, you know? Shout out. Why'd she do that to our brothers? But, you know, she's holding it down in this movie. She was really, genuinely, she was really good.
Yeah, no, like the whole conversation of, and again, even America Ferrera's, you know, monologue that, you know, some people had a problem with. I thought it, you know, and again, this movie is very kind of like, it is very like,
it's very on the nose, yeah.
But it also, like, it just works that way. Like, I don't really know what people really expected this movie to be.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to be any sort of subtle or, you know, this, you know, proper, you know, like Oppenheimer-esque movie where, you know, we're making these small little critiques, but we're working it, you know, evenly into the script, you know, all the, like, no, this is how the movie's supposed to be. And I'm glad that they made it the way that they made it.
And I'm glad in a world when movie studios are absolute shitbags, to not talk about the Warner Brothers of it, to talk more about the Mattel of it. The fact that Mattel let this movie be made, the way that Mattel is a character in the movie, and not a very good one. Oh my God, I lied. The funniest thing in the entire movie, when the suits show up and it's the big Ken war, and the guy gets shot with a real gun, and he goes, I think I just got shot. Are there real guns here? And Will Ferrell goes, and that's it. That's like, it's like he knows that there's real guns there, but he just doesn't. It's like this dark secret of Mattel's past. Like why is there a real gun there? That is just all the like you said, just all the nonsensical stuff. Like, is just so awesome. But then it really does, you know, toe that line of then getting, you know, you're going right from that to Barbie, you know. Another great moment too, and I will say too, just the overall concept of, like, even though it's never said in the movie, the overall concept of like addressing like the friend zone, like for like when that's kind of, it's more focused on like the patriarchy stuff with the Kens, but then after the battle, it, you know, it kind of slides more into that personal kind of struggle between Barbie and Ken, and just the fact that we're like saying the personal struggle between Barbie and Ken, like about this
Yeah.
thought-provoking Barbie movie.
Right. Because it's always like, it's Barbie and Ken. And then
Yeah.
at the end, they're like, no, it can be Barbie, like, and then there's Ken.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be, the two don't have to be mutually exclusive. They can
Yeah.
be separate.
Yeah.
And, do their kind of own thing, which I thought was a cool way to kind of, put it.
Yeah. I just thought that it handled that like incredibly well. And I really liked, I just really liked the message to Ken and to the Kens of the world, just of the, like, I don't know if anybody's told you this before, but like, it's okay to like figure out like who you are. Like when she's like, you're not your girlfriend, you're not your house, you're not, and then you're not even Beach. And he's like, I'm not Peach. Yeah. Like, and I was literally having conversations at work of like, yeah, I'm excited. I'm so worried that all the best jokes are in the trailer, and like that this Ken thing is gonna like wear thin. How wrong could a person be about a movie? Like, I can't believe how well, like, this just taught me, I don't know why I even did, because her previous two movies are incredible, and I love Little Women even more than I love Lady Bird. You just can't doubt Greta Gerwig, especially with that splash of Noah Baumbach on the co-writer for the script. If you get both of them in the writing studio there, like, hashing it out, I just think it was just this perfect combination of everything involved, and everyone involved. So speaking of that, the cast, absolutely humongous. We've already talked about America Ferrera, who I agree Danielle said in the chat a little bit ago. America Ferrera underrated, absolutely holding it down on Superstore. And I'm so glad that Greta Gerwig, kind of not remembered her, because she's not like forgotten, but it's just like, I'm so glad that Greta Gerwig saw her for this role, because I think that she just knocks it out of the park. Everything from, just her being this normal mom who's just like sees this opportunity to like have just something happen in her life, and so she just kind of goes with it. I thought that was a really cool concept as well. But yeah, then we got everybody from John Cena, Shuri Gatwa, Issa Rae, Emma Mackey, Helen Mirren as the narrator, which I know Danielle said too. She said best part of the movie was when Margot Robbie basically called herself ugly. I rolled my eyes. Then Helen Mirren joked about it.
Yeah, Danielle like literally leaned over to me, I think, and was like, oh, fucking cast Margot Robbie, and then like immediately Helen Mirren, it's like, just a note, by the way, to the directors, if you want to make this point, blah blah blah, don't cast Margot. It just worked perfectly, and Helen Mirren would the narrator would kind of poke in there like a few times, but it was never like, they were like
aggressive,
bombarding you with with her. Like,
it wasn't Blade Runner.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And then Michelle said in the chat too, I had an original Barbie, the one with the black and white bathing suit, so that just shows you how old I am. But just seeing all these things I played with was wonderful, and tears of joy. Yeah, I mean, I just, again, everything about this movie I just think worked. And then also some other people, Kate McKinnon as Weird Barbie, Michael Cera as Alan. And then what are your thoughts? What were your thoughts on Simu Liu as the kind of cool, quote unquote, cool Ken? What were your thoughts on it?
I thought he was great. Honestly, I never got like the to me, like, that's not like his like character. It's not cool Ken, right? He's still just
no.
Ken.
I'm just saying, Ken. Yeah. If anything, that's part of the joke is that
I was like, they're all kind of cool, like
yeah, like Barbie doesn't like give a shit about Ken, like, but
right, yeah.
Gosling Ken, when he's in the car and he's like, I made a double promise to Ken, and he's too cool. I can't break that. And she's like, Ken's not cool. Like, right, he's so, and again, one of the best scenes when they're on the beach and he's playing the guitar and they're playing that song. It's just like so hilarious when they're all playing the same thing, and it's just the reveal of that is so good. But then on that, his insecurity about, Simu Liu's Ken, she literally tells him multiple times, she's like, I don't like Ken. Ken is just a friend. Like, he's not even cool, and he's like, he's cool to me, like that. It's literally just his own insecurity, and I love that. Like they just show you that from the very beginning of the movie, and it's not until the end that all the Kens realize that at once. And then also John Cena. John Cena as Mermaid Ken was great. Danielle pointing out not enough Midge in the movie. We also had a nice Midge cameo. And we had wonderful comedian and Michael Caine impersonator or impressionist Rob Dryden Dryden as Sugar Daddy Ken. Which was very, very fun.
You made a Barbie that where you move. I don't know if that's
growing up Skipper. That is how it worked.
What's that?
Yeah,
they actually made that and put that production.
I love too that they never addressed the fact that at the very beginning of the movie when they find out that the Barbies escaped, and they're like, "This is just like Skipper in Key West." That's Skipper.
Right.
And they just never address that element of Skipper being in the real world. What does that mean? How did that go for her? I would love to know that horrific story. But yeah, that was Skipper. And then another one too, focusing on the Barbies for a second. I thought Issa Rae was fantastic. Another person too that I think really needs to get a shout out, Alexandria Shipp. She was on Days of Our Lives as a very young actress. She played this horrendous character. I believe her name was Claire, who I hated back when I watched that show when I lived at home. I absolutely hated her there. And then I've seen her in other things. I liked her as Storm. I thought she was good. She is incredible in this movie. I think she's my second favorite Barbie to main Barbie, which is I think a high bar because there's so many Barbies in there. Who were some of your favorites? I'm just trying to think of everybody that's in this movie, and there's just so many. Another great joke, the wall joke. As soon as they start figuring out how to build wall sideways instead of up, we're never getting out of here.
No, I think obviously Gosling was fantastic. Simu Liu, also very great. I wouldn't say I'm normally like the biggest Kate McKinnon fan, but I felt like she was used very well, and she never went really overboard, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree.
And I found her, very enjoyable in the movie.
All right, we're getting Alan in the chat here. What were your thoughts on Alan? How did you like him? His action scene?
His action scene was really funny. I thought Michael Cera did a great job. Again, whenever you just throw Michael Cera in front of a screen, I think you're going to get a pretty good reaction out of an audience. So I thought, he was great. I didn't, he's not like the most memorable character for me because he kind of, they show him and then you don't really get much from him until maybe the middle or, third.
Yeah, he's a big second act character
in the movie.
Think,
yeah, and then he kind of goes back into the background. So he's only there for a very short amount of time. But no, I thought he did a great job. Again, every time he shows up on screen, I think an audience is getting ready to laugh at whatever he says.
Yeah, absolutely. His little dance, I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible stuff. Anything else in a world of Kens being Alan? See, I agree with that, but I also think it's all right if you're a Ken. It's all right.
Mm-hmm.
You're all right. And I think that's a big message of the movie. But before we move on here, which I'm very sad to do, anything else on Barbie? Anything?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the ending.
Right. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I think for me, it was just kind of like, we get Barbie Land back, Barbie World. I forget which one they call it.
Barbie Land.
And Barbie Land. And, we get it back from the Kens, and obviously, the Kens are going to have to work to get, to be kind of a part of this community, and get the same kind of, input that the Barbies have. They have that great joke like, oh, the Kens will have as much input as, women do in the real world. Yeah. Again, very on the nose, but again, it works. And then her kind of deciding to become like a real human. That whole thing kind of, I think maybe I was just expecting it to end with the with the and
Like,
then it's kind of back to normal,
yeah, and
and
then
that's
like
kind of
everybody's just
another
happy in Barbie Land.
right. That's another critique I've seen that you've probably seen as well, where it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like okay, everything's back to normal, and it's like, okay, but like weren't we like working for more almost, like weren't we trying to change the real world, so now like the real world's back to like how it is, the shitty real
Mm-hmm.
world. um but like I said, the joke at the end works for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the whole kind of becoming, I don't know, it just didn't quite fit for me.
To me, I definitely was like, I was like, oh, I was like taken aback when that was the ending. But then,
Hmm.
especially on the second watch, but really just after I watched it, because I'll be honest, the first time I watched it, the last like 20 minutes, I kind of was sitting there like this. Like I was just sitting there
Yeah.
enjoying it. And then right when it ended, I think it all clicked together and I was like, yes, I love this. And then the second time I watched it, I was like, I really don't see where else this story could have gone, because
Hmm.
they do focus on that. And I think another great part that I'm so glad I just remembered, because I don't want to not talk about this, but that beautiful scene of her just crying and sitting on the park bench and
Hmm.
looking at the old woman next to her and telling her that she's beautiful and everything, and then just looking
I know.
around and seeing, yeah, and just seeing the real people. Like she sees a couple arguing, she sees a guy just sitting there with like his head in his hands, she sees a family playing, like just everything about life.
Hmm.
I just thought that was like one of the most beautiful like scenes I've seen in a movie in a long time. I thought that park scene was just incredible. And then you combo that with, at the exact same time, Ken's kind of awakening to the patriarchy,
Hmm.
again, in a very comedic sense. Just constantly in this movie going back and forth from heartfelt to comedic, and I just think absolutely threading that needle the entire time. But yeah, what were your thoughts on that scene in the park? Like, did that work for you? The emotion out, like the emotional level and
Yeah, that
everything
works.
like that. Yeah,
um Again, I definitely gotta see it again.
yeah. It's
But
even better the second time.
yeah, that conversation between those two characters at that time,
Mm-hmm.
that yeah, really works for me. Yeah, maybe second time, maybe I'll have a different opinion on the ending. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Again, but like I said though, the joke at the end, very funny.
Absolutely, yeah, because you're just, and
Yeah.
I was sitting there doing exactly what they wanted me to do, which I was like, oh, what's her profession? Is she gonna be like an architect? Is she gonna be,
Right. Yeah.
what is the like? I was sitting there going, okay, what is Greta Gerwig's version of the stereotypical Barbie job? Like,
Mhm.
what is the job that Barbie would have in a building like that? Also, because we got the building a little bit too. And then to just have that right at the end of just like, and it's like the most perfectly crafted, like, because she doesn't just like I guess I'll just say it, I don't know why, like she doesn't say like gynecologist as like the first
Mhm.
word. Like she crafted the sentence so perfectly that the movie ends right on that word. And it's just like so, and her smile at the end, it's just so like everything just works together so well. Like the movie, for beginning, middle, and end, just flows so well and takes you on this emotional roller coaster. For me, I really think it is one of the best movies I've seen in a while, and probably the second best movie of the year, to be totally honest, in my opinion. But yeah, let us know what you guys thought of Barbie. We did more on Barbie than I even thought we were going to, which scares me for the next part of our conversation. But let's transition over here. Let us know in the comments down below what your thoughts were on Barbie, how you enjoyed it, everything like that. And yeah, that'll do it for our discussion on Barbie. All right, all right, TJ, you can't have Barbenheimer without the Heimer. All right, let me hear it. What were your thoughts?
You
Oppenheimer.
go. No, you first.
Okay. All right. Man. If Barbie is a perfect movie, then dang nabbit, they got me twice.
Yeah.
I just think, to me, this is not a good Christopher Nolan movie. This is not a good movie. I think it is I sat here and I was like, okay, if one day I really was, a full-fledged movie reviewer, movie critic, what would be my pull quote for Oppenheimer? And I decided that it would be, it is simultaneously nothing like Christopher Nolan's other work, while also being the complete culmination of every tool he has picked up along the way. It is like one to just throw out there, and it's weird that this is the first thing I'm talking about, but the audio issue, gone. I didn't have an issue with one line of dialogue. Well, to be fair, too, also, I'm saying that from the perspective of I did see it in IMAX. So it's like, to be fair, like to you, I think that maybe had something to do with it too, if other people were still getting the audio issues. But that's just like one example to me that just was so on my mind when I saw this, that I was just like, oh, please don't be like a super dialogue heavy movie and I can't understand anything. Like that was just a really big fear going into it. And so I was really glad that it was not that. But I kind of don't even know how to attack this thing. But to me, I thought going into it, there was a ton in the trailer. The trailers are really just about showing you these different shots of, the black and white and the color stuff. And it's all about the Trinity test. And then you see some stuff in, Washington, it looks like, some stuff in boardrooms, different eras, different looks for Oppenheimer, everything like that. But it's really not until you sit down and see this movie that you realize that this is almost a, birth to death biography from this one man's perspective, where you start with him when he's, about 20 years old at university, and then you go all the way up to, the 60s, basically, right before he died. Which that was another thing that I didn't even know after seeing the movie, was that he died when he was like 61 or something. He died like super young. But man, just to go off of it here, I think Cillian Murphy is on an insane level in this movie. Just the amount that is asked of him, both the size and the scope of the movie, literally the size and the scope of, a lot of the movie is physically him in frame, just hit my eye, directly looking down the barrel of the lens as well. But then also within his incredible performance is this immense ensemble cast that is just absolutely delivering in every single scene, every single line. And to just throw out the highlights here for me, obviously Emily Blunt, not much to do in the first act of the movie. More Florence Pugh is in the first act of the movie. That's something too that I didn't know from the trailers. I thought maybe that was going to be like an affair at the same time situation, which again, full spoilers, full specifics here. It did end up being for one part of it, but I was very surprised that it was very much the Florence Pugh section, and then he met Emily Blunt. That was not how I thought things were going to go, but Emily Blunt, fantastic. To me, two people that I'm not seeing enough people talk about in this is Alden Ehrenreich and Jason Clarke. To me, those two absolutely stole every second of screen time that they had, and that's saying a lot for Alden Ehrenreich, because he is playing off, in every scene that Alden Ehrenreich is in, he is playing off of a Robert Downey Jr. that said, if you thought I was out, Nolan just pulled me back in. I'm ready for my Oscar now. This was the definitive mic drop of, oh yeah, he was in Chaplin, and then Kiss Kiss Bang Bang he was really good in Zodiac. But I guess now he's Iron Man, and that's kind of gonna I guess now he's Iron Man, and there you go. That's where Robert Downey Jr.'s legacy is. And then he comes out with this incredible performance in Doolittle, And then a couple years later, an even better performance in Oppenheimer. And jokes aside, I do think this is easily his best performance of his career. I think even though he does not share a lot of on camera screen or on camera scenes with Cillian Murphy, the tension between him and Oppenheimer, that again, going full just to the end of the movie here, that is almost entirely manufactured. Again, I think a good spiritual connection here with this movie and Barbie of Lewis Strauss is the character that Downey plays, because I'm more familiar with the character names here because just everybody is so good in their characters. But that you find out that Strauss has pretty much entirely manufactured this resentment between him and Oppenheimer, that Oppenheimer never really felt this way towards him. Maybe a little bit of just wanting, the limelight or whatever. But
real quick, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. I don't even know how to talk about
what
this
did you think of the movie? I know I'm
great.
I
thought it was great. Yeah.
What did you? Sorry, real quick. What did you think it was great? Obviously, performances.
Yeah.
Visuals, fantastic, right?
Yeah, the visuals I thought were incredible. I thought that whether it's the Trinity sequence or just the overall cinematography of the movie and some of the sweeping shots of the exterior locations and stuff, I just thought were absolutely incredible. And I loved it. I don't know. I thought the sound design was really, really good. The minimal use of effects, but the use of effects and just simple things even lighting effects, I thought were just absolutely wonderful and fit perfectly. And then I guess the last thing I'll just touch on is the score. Ludwig Göransson, again, proving, this guy is the next Hans Zimmer. I don't know. I mean, it's just insane the amount of work that Ludwig Göransson has done in the past 10 years. This score, I think it's the best score that Ludwig has ever done. Just kind of not even the full music. It's not even a lot of full orchestrated music. It's kind of the tones and the combination of sounds and stuff. I don't know. It's just so much to talk about, but I just loved everything about it. For me,
yeah.
Oh, by the way, Barbie was 5 out of 5. This also 5 out of 5. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to shoot. I could tell we were going on the actor rabbit hole.
Yeah, I was
we need to know what else.
Yeah. It's just so much to talk about.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I thought this movie was absolutely fantastic. I was enthralled from, I will say, probably 5 minutes in, because I found myself, it was hard for me to get into. I feel like the first 5-10 minutes, just because they kind of throw you in there. It's we're here at college, and we're not to where I think we all expect the story to be yet.
Yeah.
So it took me a few minutes to kind of get into it, but once I was in, I was locked in. All the actor performances, everybody's putting in their best day's work. Robert Downey Jr., obviously amazing. Cillian Murphy, of course, amazing. Florence Pugh, Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr. Even people, that don't have that many lines, Jack Quaid, I thought was great. Josh Peck, for what he was doing, he was really good. Benny Safdie, I really enjoyed.
Yeah. Josh Hartnett.
Yes, of course. And Jason Clarke too.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
And Tom Conti as Albert Einstein.
Tom Conti as Albert Einstein. The cinematography was, oh my god, the shots of just obviously the bomb dropping, that just looked fantastic. I can't imagine what it would have looked like if it was CG at all. But Nolan has been very, he keeps telling everybody, there's no CG in this movie.
Yeah.
And you could definitely tell. Even those quick little shots that we get in the beginning, of kind of when it's kind of signifying his mind kind of racing and moving. You know, we have those little like atom splits and that kind of quick stuff where it cuts back and forth. That stuff I just looked awesome, but I was also wondering like how the fuck, like what did they do to like make it look like that? You know what I mean? To get that effect. The editing was fantastic. You know,
the editing was really good.
Never did I feel like, you know, too lost or anything. Like I knew where we were in the story, and I was really able to just kind of track his life going through, and I thought they did a really good job with that. The score, like you said, I mean, that score was hitting. Like when I said Mission Impossible score was hitting, this score was also hitting.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable by Ludwig Göransson. I mean,
I think the track is called Trinity. Just the ramp up and then the like release on it is just it's crazy. It's crazy. Right. The amount, you know, the like, what's the right word? I'm trying to not say the wrong, like the aural, like the hear it, like the aural like sensation. Yeah, whatever.
The aura?
No, it's like it's some like a hearing term, but like just gotcha. like the you know, not frequency, but just the sound, like just the way that like the sound in the theater was done. And I know in chat, I know Danielle was not as big a fan, it seems like, of the movie, but she said I think it's douchey to tell people you need to watch a movie a specific way, theater seating, etc., like he said he did when making Oppenheimer. And then she said it's an hour and a half too long, and then she just said could hardly concentrate on the storyline when I was trying to figure out what the significance of the black and white versus color. I mean, I think that's fair. I don't know. I think that's like, if that's how you ended up watching it, then I guess that's fair. Because like some people, you know, and I think a important thing too is how much of this movie is, you know, every movie is subjective, but really truly how much of this movie is subjective in both senses of the word. Because you know, I think now it's known, like the color stuff is Oppenheimer's, you know, distinct perspective on events, and then the black and white seems to be, you know, up for debate of either, you know, either it's the objective factual accounts of what happened because of people that were in the room, or another thing is also a lot of the black and white does line up with Strauss, with his perspective. So and then I have a question for you that I haven't gotten a chance to talk about to anyone, because I don't think a lot of people even remember that it happened. The very beginning of the movie, the first shot you see of Oppenheimer, it says on screen 1, fusion. And then the very first shot you see of Strauss, it says on the screen 2, fission. That's in like the first minute of the movie. And it's never addressed ever again.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on that? What do you think that's saying? And is the fusion fission that kind of analogy for the black and white to the color? You know, fission is more of the two sides, you know, abrasive against each other.
To me, like Strauss and the whole kind of fission is kind of the, I don't even know how, like, I had it in my head and I just lost it.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff
kind
I
of like,
just love.
Like fission, you think kind of like, you know, butting heads or, you know, going against each other, not working together.
Yeah.
And then, you know, with fusion, it's more of like a collective, you know, it's a melting pot or something, as you would say, you know, we're working together.
Exactly like Los Alamos.
Yeah, so I think that's, maybe that's, I don't know, you know, I don't know.
I think that's good, yeah. Maybe I just genuinely remembered it just now, so I was like, it's just one of those weird Nolan things that just,
I mean, you're showing, again, you have the fission on Strauss, and Strauss is the one who's kind of causing that fission, you know, with Oppenheimer, you know, Oppenheimer's life. You know, obviously he has that kind of hearing, that kangaroo court, as they call it, with Jason Clarke, but also Strauss is, you know, gonna say all this shit about him in front of this council as well. So I'd imagine maybe that's where that is. I could be wrong, obviously, but
yeah. And then another thing, I just want to focus on things that I can remember, just because there's so much. But another thing I want to get out of the way here is just, what were your thoughts, kind of jumping straight to the ending here? One of the very first, obviously a big trailer moment, was the, whoa, oh, it's Einstein, you know, with his hat flying away.
Einstein's straight up MCU character this movie. They have two
really is.
MCU moments.
Yeah.
What's
the other one? Yeah.
Oh, do you not know what it is?
And why is it Einstein coming when the car drives away and then he's there?
That one's one of them. And the second one is when Alden Ehrenreich's like talking. He goes, Strauss goes, "Who voted against me?" He goes, some
right.
named John F. Kennedy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, here we go. You know, it's the big mic drop moment.
What was his name? Kennedy.
Yeah. Kennedy.
John F. Kennedy. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, I loved all the scenes with Iron Man and Han Solo.
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't wait to hear what they were going to say next. No, but genuinely, I think it just goes to show too, whether it's those two or Josh Peck or Jack Quaid, you know, it doesn't matter what you're from. It doesn't matter, you know, what kind of actor you are. It's like if you're given the right part and if you're given the right script, you know, another person, Dane DeHaan. Dane DeHaan was really good in this movie with the little tiny part that he had.
I just don't think I like his acting. Like
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
I don't know. For me, every time I see him, I always think of like Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
I think what's it called? A Cure for Wellness is a movie that I've really come around to liking. So I think that kind of got me to like him more. But then you also have, you know, Matthew Modine, who had a you know, kind of in the background of the movie for most of it, you know, has a little bit of a scuff up with Matt Damon at one point, and then really has a big scene in the kind of kangaroo court thing, testifying on behalf of Oppenheimer. But then you got people like Casey Affleck, Rami Malek, who you know,
Gary
Casey
Oldman.
Affleck, I didn't even know was in this. Gary Oldman, I had heard was in this, but then I was like, I guess people are wrong. And then as soon as the door opens, you know, to the Oval Office, you're like, oh my God. Like,
don't let that baby in here ever again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was crazy. I loved that scene with Truman. But then speaking of the MCU moments and of Einstein, one of the first things you do see is the black and white perspective of his hat flying off at a very far distance. Then at another point you see the hat fly off at a closer distance, but still black and white in the middle of like a montage of imagery. And then it's not until the very end of the movie that you finally get their conversation. And you really realize how that moment with Einstein, which is a real thing that happened, by the way, that's a real meeting, and there's that picture of the two of them sitting down at the table, talking together, like I'm talking of real life Einstein and real life Oppenheimer, just the idea that this interaction and the fact that Einstein walks away from it with this, you know, kind of sour expression on his face, and the fact that Strauss, you know, at first when Strauss is kind of first giving the narration, I guess you could call it, but what he's really doing is explaining it to Alden Ehrenreich, when he's like, you know, when I first met Oppenheimer, you know, and Einstein was there and he was offering him the position and everything, he just kind of goes like, I don't know what first of all, also his accent, Robert Downey Jr.'s voice in this is like so good, but he's like, you know, I don't know what he told Einstein that day, but you know, Einstein never spoke with me again, you know, and he just kind of makes nothing of it. And then the more that you are with Strauss and the more that you hear him talk, and the angrier he gets that all this committee wants to do is talk about Oppenheimer, you know, just the angrier he gets, the more angry you realize that interaction really made him.
I think also that kind of goes back to the whole kind of fission thing where it's like, you know, he makes it more about himself, but also he's, you know, I don't know if he necessarily has the power, but you know, the whole conversation of, okay, we made this bomb, you know, now let's make more, you know, we need more, you know,
Truman needs to know what's next.
And he's not, you know, he's causing, you know, he's causing that kind of fission within that conversation. You know, if that's the correct, right way to put it, I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. I've that just like kind of pops in my head.
No, I think that absolutely. I like
thing, and then
looking through it through that
lens.
lens.
You know, maybe they were talking about something just a little bit bigger. Maybe
Yeah.
basically saying like
He said
it
maybe
didn't have to
something
be
more important than
important.
you.
Yeah.
Like damn, that was really crazy. And then I love too the whole reversal of him when he does get denied. He goes, it's not a what does he say? Like it's not a what is it called? Oh, it's not a sentencing. It's just a denial. Like, which is exactly what he set up for Oppenheimer. So it just blew up in his face. And then just kind of jumping to the end here, when we do finally get the true conversation there, where, earlier in the movie, you hear Matt Damon say, who again, we want to talk about Matt Damon too, but right. You hear Matt Damon say like, are you telling me that, there's a chance that if we do this bomb, it'll blow up the world? And like, there's that fear early on. And then kind of circling all the way back to the ending here, but a conversation that takes place very early on in Oppenheimer's life. This is he says, all those years ago when we ran the numbers and there was a possibility that we could set off a chain reaction that would destroy the world. And then he has that great, Cillian Murphy has that great line to end the movie of, I think we did. And then there's that just vision that he kind of has of the world ending. That is just some of the most haunting shit I have ever seen in a movie, like ever. Like the fact that movie just ends and they're just like, yeah, maybe we did start a, irreversible course of all of us dying one day in a nuclear holocaust. Enjoy the rest of your day. Like that, like the fact that the movie just ends on that absolutely like insane note of like, yeah, the world could probably end one day because of the actions that were taken in this real life story that's being shown in this movie. So what were your thoughts on kind of just the very end of the movie? And then I want to circle back to things like him in the gym with his kind of speech to them and his visions and stuff. But what were your thoughts on the end?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a funny tweet that's like, where's the post-credit scene for Oppenheimer? And somebody's like, we're living it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And to see how that kind of, that conversation, really rings true, obviously today, obviously we knew it would, but that kind of just creation of the bomb and where we are now, we have all these countries, are armed with, nuclear weapons, whether that be, Russia, US, North Korea, any country. And to see how kind of, I feel like there's always that kind of looming threat, not maybe like there was back then. Because I don't know about you, I don't go around worrying that we're going to get nuked. But there's always kind of that, North Korea.
Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, North Korea will throw out that threat once in a while, like they'll do those missile launches where it's like, oh, we have a missile now that can reach the US or reach anywhere in the world. And just to see kind of, how we are living now and, that conversation leading up to now, I don't know, it all kind of like worked for me and stuck with me. And, I thought that was, again, really great. And kind of Strauss like walking up and, in his head, it's like, oh, they're fucking, talking shit about me or something like that. Where it's like, no, it's something way bigger.
It's like he's so self-centered. It's got to be about him.
Right. And I mean, it didn't help, obviously, too, that he embarrassed him in that. I forget what it was, if it was a hearing or whatever.
Yeah, it was the ruling on importing isotopes from like the Ukraine or something, and he was like, Oppenheimer basically made him look foolish because he was, Strauss was like, no, we need this deal to get the isotopes, and Oppenheimer was like, they're not even, you don't even really need them. Yeah. And I love that too, that the first time we see that scene, again, with the black and white color thing, the first time we see that scene is in the black and white because it's Strauss telling that story. And again, he doesn't seem affected by it the first time you see it. But then by the time you catch up and it's the color, and also if you notice, a lot of the black and white stuff is like shot very far away. And then when you actually see it from Oppenheimer's perspective, you realize, and the guy leans over and he's like, how'd we do? And then he looks at Strauss and he's like, I think a little too well. Like, he looks a little too angry. Like, and then that is really, with the Einstein thing and the public, you know, embarrassment or whatever is really what gets to Strauss to cause all this shit for Oppenheimer later in life. Man.
Just a quick question before we move on.
Yeah.
Before we go to like that gym scene. So, you know, we don't get much of Florence Pugh in this movie, but you know, obviously when she's on screen, she's great. So when they show kind of her death, her character's death, I don't know if you noticed, and I don't know how many people saw it.
Oh, I know.
Because it's very fast. But
I noticed.
when she's holding her head like in the bathtub, there's kind of like black gloved hand for a split second, like holding her head down.
Yeah.
What did you take from that?
So the whole time, I don't know why I can't speak. There's just too many thoughts in my head. Up until about an hour or two ago, I was just like, oh yeah, that's just one of Oppenheimer's, you know, worrisome kind of, what are they called? Invasive thoughts of just like, oh, what if it wasn't a suicide? What if somebody killed her? So I thought it was, you know, maybe somebody either just connected to the government, the military, or like the communism stuff, or maybe Casey Affleck. Maybe Casey Affleck had somebody do it. But then my friend just a couple hours ago made me really think and was like, what if he's envisioning that it's his own hand because he's envisioning that it's his own guilt? Yeah, I didn't even think about that. And that's another thing. I'm like, you know, I like to think I think about it from every angle. I didn't even consider that. And there's just so much I'm excited to rewatch this movie to see. But yeah, is that what you took it as? Him?
So my initial thought, I was reading up on her, like, you know, the real life person, just like on Wikipedia, like a day or two before, and I saw that apparently it was ruled a suicide, but then like it was also called into question, maybe like it wasn't a suicide. So I thought maybe that was like Nolan being like, oh, you know, maybe like I mean, I think it is widely believed that she did like kill herself. But there was like, you know, there was thoughts that maybe it was like the government or something, you know.
See, I didn't even know that there was that real life element. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, that whole kind of, you know, that invasive kind of guilt, you know, creeping into his head, that also, you know, makes sense. I don't know if we'll ever know, but
yeah,
I just found that really interesting. Yeah.
We should ask him.
Yeah, somebody get Noah on the phone.
Yeah. Oh, I meant Oppenheimer.
Oh.
Is he still taking calls? No, but yeah, I agree 100% with that. Speaking of his kind of invasive thoughts and everything, I guess let's just touch on these like invasive thoughts and their use like throughout the movie. But obviously the main one is post the test, post the which I thought was a really effective tense thing. Actually, before that, let's go to that section of the movie right after the Trinity test, where, you know, they choose, you know, you don't see Hiroshima or Nagasaki in this movie. Just in general, what are your thoughts on that? And what are your thoughts on the look of the Trinity test and everything like that as well?
Man, I don't even know like where to, you know.
It's just
I've seen like a lot of that on Twitter where, or not, you know, not a lot, but you know, there's some people like, you know, maybe like, I don't even know how to put it. Like, it's kind of disrespectful to the people that died, not showing what, you know, what the outcome was. I don't know. At one point, I feel like this is a character study, and I feel like it maybe didn't need to be in the movie, just considering I feel like everybody knows what happened.
Yeah. I mean, we just saw it in Eternals.
You know, I'm not trying to be like, you know, I'm not trying to be insensitive or anything like that. It's just like, I don't feel like it was necessary for the movie.
To be in there.
I don't know. Yeah, to be in the movie.
Yeah. I agree. I think perspective is extremely important in this movie, and we're never not with Oppenheimer. You know, when we're not with Oppenheimer, everyone is talking about Oppenheimer. You know, we're never not, whether he's in the scene or not, we're never not within his kind of orbit. And so to then for us to then go all the way over and then introduce a pilot, or even if you just skipped and showed it, then you're just showing it just to show it. You know what I mean? You're not really doing anything interesting with it. It would have to be a foundational part of the movie, like built in from the beginning to lead up to that point. And that's just never where this story was leading up to me. And I think in terms of like, well, you have to show it at least to make a statement on just how evil an act this was. And I've seen this on Twitter too. I think the most evil thing I've seen in a movie in a long time is when the wonderful, again, another person, James Remar, from a lot of Tarantino's movies and everything, who's playing the guy who has the list, the political guy who has the list of, here are the 12 cities they've chosen. Yeah. And then he just goes, well, actually 11. I've struck Kyoto from the list because of its cultural significance, and me and my wife, we also summer there. And it's like that's the most evil line in the movie is, we're not gonna kill these hundreds of thousands of people because it's just so pretty there. But all right, what about the other ones though? Which one do you want? Like, it's like, right. It's just so, it's like playing, it's like, well, they're on the other side of
such a
of the map.
It's like the whole playing God kind of aspect
exactly.
of it. Well, which one? Which city?
It's like, well, I can't see their battleship. It's like a game of Battleship. It's literally like an X on a map. Like there's no weight or severity to it. Like it, and I love the fact that at no point in this movie is there a point right before the Trinity test where they're like, I don't know, guys, maybe we shouldn't. And like, obviously people have those thoughts, and like maybe somebody like a Jack Quaid could be thinking that, maybe he was talking to his significant other about that or something. But that's not what we're watching the movie for, is not those thoughts. We're in it for Oppenheimer's thoughts. And I think one of the last things I want to make sure we loop in here is Matt Damon. And so I thought it was really good that it's like one of the big lines at the end of the movie with Jason Clarke is, so when did your strong moral qualms start? And I think the fact Oppenheimer doesn't know when they started. He just knows that he was really excited to build this thing that he figured out he could build. And then before it was too late, all these people were dead. And it's like, it's the kind of Jeff Goldblum, the like, everybody, when they realized they could, nobody ever stopped to think whether they should. It was just like, well, now that we have the bomb, we have to use it.
Right. And somebody who I think, a character who has, I can't remember the one. I think it's probably the bigger bomb line, but two lines that I thought were
Benny Safdie
really great that I was thinking of was Benny Safdie when he says, until somebody builds a bigger bomb. Yeah. And then the other one when, I think that when they're trying to recruit him and they're like, well, why wouldn't you want to come work on this or, whatever. And he's like, well, work for the government and, they want you now, but they, once they don't need you, you're gone. And that, kind of filters throughout and goes throughout the whole movie to when, Oppenheimer, just talking to Matt Damon and, he's like, well, let me know, like, when you guys, like, figure out a place or, whatever you guys are going to do with it. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'll keep you in the loop. And then he just never tells him. And he has to hear it over the radio.
Yeah.
And I just thought, those were two lines that I thought really carried throughout the movie.
Yeah, I agree. I think specifically that one about, once your government, it's about what comes after. Well, what happens when they don't need you anymore? And it's exactly what ends up happening is they pack up the two bombs that they made after the test one, and they said, all right, we'll call you. Yeah, and I think Oppenheimer even says to Groves is Matt Damon's character, I think he even says to him, like, can I come with you, or can I, can you let me know as soon as it happens? And I just love the fact that they just didn't, because it's like, it just doesn't matter to him. Like, and then I love the, like, just horrific, again, talk about the evil stuff of, like, Harry Truman. I feel like you look at the picture of him, his official portrait of the hands folded with, like, the smile on his face and stuff. That's the murderous son of a bitch who won World War II for us. Like, when he has that moment and you're like, oh, Harry Truman, he's a nice guy. He's, like, holding Oppenheimer's hand and stuff. And he's like, how do you feel, And he's like, I feel like I have blood on my hands. And, like, Truman just immediately goes, like, you didn't drop the bomb, I did. Like, he just immediately switches into, like, what the fuck are you talking? Get the fuck out of my office. Like, trying to take credit for this, like, incredible victory. You know, he's like, you think the people of Hiroshima sit and cry at night thinking the name Robert Oppenheimer? No, they think of me. I dropped that bomb. Like, I was like, oh my God. I thought for the one scene, literal one scene, Gary Oldman was so good. And then last acting wise, because I think we somehow hit everyone or most people. What were your thoughts on the kind of Rami Malek fake out and then the big moment at the end?
Yeah, when he kind of showed up originally in that hotel, I was like, oh, this is all he's gonna, you know.
Yeah, it's like, I guess he really wanted to work with Nolan, I guess.
Yeah, and then he had that kind of, you know, quick, maybe 2-3 minute, I don't know how many minutes it was, speech towards the end. And again, it's just kind of the whole, you know, all these actors not having, you know, maybe not a ton to do, not a ton of lines, but when they speak, they, you know, they do a great job.
They show up.
Yeah.
Man, anything else that we haven't touched on?
We got to, well, sorry, we didn't talk about the schoolhouse scene, which
right.
As terrible as that scene is, it's my favorite scene. It's terrible to watch.
Yeah.
And then we have to talk about the test because we didn't talk
absolutely.
So what did you think of like kind of that schoolhouse speech scene?
I just thought it was incredible, and I want to say Michelle in chat, earlier she said that sound in the Oppenheimer of stomping of the feet in the trailer, which that sound has been a part of those trailers since the first trailer. And everybody, you know, a lot of people I talked to were like, "What do you think that sound is?" And you just assume, oh, maybe it's flipping. You know, I thought maybe it was like flipping levers or something that. And to have it be that it's literally the sound of the personification and the sound of his guilt, of just like, all these people are dead and everyone in front of me is cheering me for it. And I am just like laser focused, and I love that just all the audio dropped out, and it felt like every line that not just Cillian Murphy was saying, but that Oppenheimer was saying in that like speech, it felt like he took 30 seconds to figure out the next 5 words he wanted to say and then would say them, and just like was glad to be over with that. Like every single sentence that he said was like this labored experience, and I loved the effect of the background shaking behind him, because that's really what, you know, kind of an anxiety or panic attack must feel like, is literally that everything is just closing in around you. And then obviously there's the more like haunting elements of the vision too, with, you know, seeing the girl's, you know, skin ripping off of her body, and then when he goes to leave, stepping into that like burnt out husk of like what looked like a child.
And the guy throwing up as he exits the
and the guy throwing up, like, because again, and they say, you know, it's not just the people that died there. It's I want to say, when Jason Clarke is reading out like all the horrible things that it did, when he's like, you know, and it's not just the people that were directly impacted. There's people that took 2 days to crawl out and they still died because of the radiation poisoning. And it's like, it's not just like, I love that we saw the people who got hit by the blast, the actual charred bodies, and then the people who went on to live with these illnesses and then eventually died from them. Like, it was showing all of that in this one scene. And in my opinion, I think that answered the question of we didn't see Hiroshima, because we saw he kept for the rest of his life. And we see it again with Jason Clarke with the bright white lights. He is envisioning this happening. What would it be like if it happened to me? That's what I did to other people. And so I thought the scene was just absolutely incredible. Really, really good. But what were your thoughts on the gym thing?
I basically echo everything you said. To find out that kind of that noise, like you said, has been throughout the trailers and everything, is actually the sound of, you know, people clapping and stomping their feet and getting all excited because, you know, we just dropped this bomb and stopped the enemy, whatever. You know, that is haunting, I guess, to say. And just to, you know, kind of like you said, that whole kind of I think he says like I forget what he says in the beginning, but he starts a speech and then he, it kind of, it's just him and it's just him kind of staring at the camera. And it is very kind of slow too, where it's like they go kind of slowly from cheering to like, then it's to kind of, terrible things happening, obviously with the one girl with her skin peeling off, and then, him stepping in the burnt body. And then, you also see it's not like it's not everybody cheering when he's like walking out. Like some people are like kind of, it looks like, some people just, got hit by a bomb. They're crying or all that stuff. But then there's some people that are still cheering. And I don't know. It's just kind of that guy. There was always going to be those two sides. There's always going to be somebody, begging for their life, crying for their loved one that just died. And there's always going to be somebody, in another country, cheering, oh, we just, defeated the enemy. And obviously, like you said, that kind of looking at what he did, but again, looking to the future and what there will be going forward, with the manufacturing of all these bombs and stuff.
Wow, you really hit me with that one. That was there's always going to be two sides of one's a victory and one's a loss, depends where you're standing. That's man, that is so fucked. We're all gonna die. we are over.
Oh my god.
Danielle in the chat said, ready for the Josh Hartnett comeback. Absolutely. Between this and Black Mirror, the new season, he was so good in that, and then just immediately followed it up with this. Josh Hartnett is really, really good in this movie.
I've seen that. One, I forget what I was watching it, and somebody was like, he kind of looked like Keaton in Batman. Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. My favorite scene of his probably was when he's trying to convince Oppenheimer to stop, the whole kind of
the
communist thing in the classroom.
Yeah.
He was very, very good in that scene. So let's talk about the test, and then maybe just wrap it all up after that. I'll tell you what, man. They kind of lead you up with, I think there's 2 tests before it. They're kind of just, on a smaller scale.
It's testing like the different sections, right? It's like whether the implosion will work, and then whether if like those big, like, what is that, a hexagon? Like the big, like, kind of like Lego pieces that they're putting together. And I love the Christopher Nolan comedy too, by the way, well, what did we learn from that test? That we need to be standing further back. Like, I loved that. That was so great.
I loved, I don't know about you, but everybody knows what's gonna happen. Obviously, that it's gonna work. But I was sweating. I was like, is something gonna go wrong? Even though obviously in my head I know nothing's gonna go wrong. Yeah. I know it's gonna, we're gonna proceed as planned and stuff like that. But
I thought for a second you might switch it up. I don't know.
The way Nolan builds that tension throughout however many minutes that is,
and the way that Ludwig builds that tension
with the score was fantastic. And the fact that we got Josh Peck on the button,
Josh Peck is the button. We got Bernard the elf worrying about. He's like, oh, is it gonna work? Again, that's another person we haven't mentioned. David Krumholtz, very small role, one of Oppenheimer's old college friends. Very good role though, because he actually, I forgot, he kind of does have a little bit more of a substantial role because he also comes back at the end. He very, very good as kind of Oppenheimer's kind of like oldest friend, I would say. Very enjoyable in this.
Just even talking about Jack Quaid, this is probably his best moment when he's sitting in the car and they try to give him the glasses, I think, or the glass. He's like, oh no, I got the
car will do it.
Car will filter out the rays. They're like, well, what's gonna stop the glass?
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was so.
And even Benny, I don't know what was that, like sunscreen. Like, what was that?
I think it was sunscreen. And then he turns to Jack Quaid and he goes, "Is it blended or something?" He's like, "Yeah, you're good, buddy."
Those kind of moments of comedy. They still don't even alleviate the stress.
No, not at all.
It just kind of builds until they eventually.
And again, that's another everybody that's all the ensemble that's in this, they're they're all in the movie, but then like an actor will be pulled along and then like have a spike of like a big like scene that they'll have. Like for me, like Matthew Modine is like, he's in the whole movie, but then at the Trinity test, he's like, you gotta stop like fucking around. Like if this weather, like I think he's the one like bitching about the weather. He's like, you know, if this rain doesn't clear up, we're gonna like, this whole thing's gonna be blown. Like, and then he's gone again, and then he pops back up right at the end. Like it's like that, you can track that for like every person, but everybody just had such a great thing. And then the lightning storm of like, yeah, let's keep the nuclear bomb at the top of the metal tower in a lightning storm in the in the middle of a flat desert. Like I'm sure that won't be any issue. But I just the everything with that, and then the just like overwhelming. And I saw it in IMAX, and I saw it in the very back row, which I wanted to see. I wanted to see it in the back row so that I could see everything, so that I could just take everything in and not miss anything. Next time I see it, I want to see it either closer to the front or try to be closer to the middle, but the middle is just going to be so packed for literally weeks. I just think that the look of it, and people were like, well, it doesn't look exactly like the real mushroom cloud did. He said 1,000,000 times, it's not exactly the real mushroom cloud, because they recreated it with various different things. And then I heard, I saw this one person say, it almost worked better. And I think it did work better because for them, it was they didn't know what was going to happen. They could have lit the atmosphere on fire. It could have been a dud. It could have been, whatever a real life mushroom cloud height is. It could have been 10 times as big as that in real life. They had no idea what it was going to look like. So it kind of really, again, that bit of perspective is kind of the most important thing to this movie. It put us in their perspective of, we didn't exactly know what it was going to look like. So what were kind of thoughts on the look of it? And then what was your emotional journey with the lack of sound and then the sound? Because I think going into this, everybody just had in their mind that Josh Peck was going to hit a big red button, and then a mushroom cloud was going to take up the whole screen, and we were all going to die in our seats from the explosion sound. And it was very not that.
Yeah, because they kind of prime you for that in the first two tests, where it's like, okay, that they do the test, and you hear it pretty clearly close after. But with the Trinity test, you have to take into account that they're so far back.
Yeah.
And
there's like 3 base camps back.
There's 3, and you don't technically hear it till like kind of that wave kind of runs over you. And for me, it still took me by surprise, even though I know it shouldn't have, when they did drop it. And I was like, oh, are they gonna just like
do it in silence? Yeah,
do it in silence.
Yeah,
and just just showing the explosion. It looked obviously fantastic. But I jumped as soon as it hit. I was like,
the audio.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god,
because it was so quiet. I had time. I turned to my mom and I was like, I guess that's it. I guess they are just doing it. Like it was like, it was just like, oh my god, like it was just earth shattering. And the fact that you got it on each wave, like you got it with how Oppenheimer felt it and heard it, and then you got it with Damon, and then you got it with like Jack Quaid.
Yeah, like Jack Quaid was like,
or
like guys on the ground. Yeah,
the glass was fine. The glass was fine after that. And just that bright, intense light, and the fact that, I didn't even think about this until I just almost said the sentence without even thinking. They show in the movie, and sure, this is in Oppenheimer's perspective, so the color stuff, it's up to open interpretation. But the fact that everybody else looks behind them, and Matt Damon says, remember, don't turn around until you see the light reflected on the hill, and Oppenheimer takes off his goggles and stares directly into it. I didn't even think about that until just now, but it's just like, he's the only one in the movie, at least he's the only one, that stared directly at, their own creation kind of thing. But that Trinity test, and then again, the music all throughout that, because when I say, oh, the movie's then silent, there's still, the music is still playing. But then just the absolute ear-shattering sound. I mean, I thought that John Wick's punch at the beginning of John Wick Chapter 4 was one of the loudest things I've literally ever heard in a movie theater. This blew that away. And I thought that the theater was going to fall down when I was watching John Wick 4. This was like not even close. I couldn't even imagine this movie in RPX. Like the like an Adobe Atmos or something with this. Like, oh my God, you'd literally jump. But all right, is there anything else now? Because I genuinely just can't remember.
I think that's
what about Kenneth Branagh?
Kenneth Branagh, he was great.
Yeah, I thought he was good.
He was great. They would, his little thing that we saw in the trailer.
He almost killed him in the beginning of the movie.
Oh, I know what I wanted to say. How did you think of the way Nolan worked in that quote?
Oh, right. Okay. I liked it because I thought. I mean, I can understand people being like,
first one I was
really,
kind of
that's when you're gonna do it. Yeah. But like the first one, I liked. I liked them both, but the first one I liked because it was like in that famous TV interview. He's not like reading it from somewhere. That's a quote that he has in his brain. So it's like, to me at least, it would make sense that he would have read it at some point in his life. You know what I mean? So I just took it as like, it didn't feel like it was the first time he said it in that interview. So he probably did say it a couple times throughout his life. That's how I felt about the first one. And then the second one, where obviously it's much more serious and much more, everything like that, I thought was fantastic. And then the last moment that I can think of that I really want to hit on, that Jason Clarke and Emily Blunt moment where he just thinks that he's going to cut his teeth on her, and she just,
She's a ride or die, by the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, when she grabs him and is like, listen to me. We have been through like more shit than this, and like you got to get your shit together, man. Like, and he was just like, okay, like he was like, it was just I thought their relationship was really. Or
when
really
she
good.
like is telling him to like stop being a martyr for everybody, and that I don't know. I know like one of the scenes that people are kind of like, do we really that was when he's like older and he's like getting the award or whatever it is. And,
and she doesn't shake Benny Safdie's hand.
Yeah, she does. Yes, I was like, that's it right there.
Yeah.
Last question I'll ask you.
Yeah.
This is a Nolan question. Is this your favorite Nolan film? And do you think it's his best?
I think clear and cut, it is his best movie. I don't know, man. I gotta like ask me that question in like 2 years. Cause like, to me, I don't know. There is just something, no pun intended, magical about Batman Begins and The Prestige to me that I just, those two movies of Nolan's, I will just watch. I could watch them over and over and over again. And it's not the runtime that cuts this down, because Batman Begins is like 214 and Prestige is like 240. So Oppenheimer's not much more of a stretch. Just to me, I don't know if I can say that it is my favorite film, just because two of his films are so incredibly high up there for me. And then I also obviously love everything else, particularly, Inception and Interstellar, I think are just fantastic. But, then Tenet, Dark Knight Rises, not so much, in my opinion, but I think it could get there. But I think, to me, like I said at the beginning, I think it's unequivocally his best and his strongest overall film, I think.
I haven't seen all of them, and I don't think you have either. But
yeah, no,
I do want to do a Nolan ranking. So I do plan on watching all of them. Hopefully.
What do you need? Insomnia and Following?
No, I have not seen. I've not seen Following, or Memento, or Tenet.
Oh, okay.
I've seen all the other ones.
Never seen Tenet.
Right. Well, what do you mean I've never seen Tenet? Everybody was like, Tenet.
No, I know. Yeah. I just meant more so like, I'm surprised we've never like done it for the show or something. Right. Yeah.
No, but I do want to rewatch them. For me,
for sure.
Right now, it's maybe. Right now, again, off my memory, it's his best movie. And right now, it's my favorite, I think. For me, up there is Dark Knight and also Interstellar. Because Interstellar made me like cry like a baby.
Yeah. This is
so
the only other
yeah.
Christopher Nolan movie that has made me cry other than Interstellar.
Yeah. Which is funny to hear you say that, because a lot of people's, or maybe not a lot of, but a criticism of this movie that doesn't really make you feel like it's not really, you don't have the emotional attachment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. I just really felt it. And then especially, I don't even know if it was like, I don't know. It was just like it wasn't my feelings for Oppenheimer. It was like my feelings for the human race. Like, I don't even know like how that's possible, but like that's, I guess if I had to describe it, like that would be it. Right. Which again, I do think this is in a very weird way, a very spiritual sibling to Barbie, of just like, they're both movies about humans, like, and what it means to be a human, and what humans' powers are, and the amount of effect that humans can have on each other and the world. And I think, if anything, Barbenheimer was the friends we made along the way. And, to quote Robert Downey Chowney, part of the journey is the end. And I think Oppenheimer might have ended the world. And there we have it. Oppenheimer is 3 hours, but luckily this podcast did not end up being 3 hours. Let us know what you thought of Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan's newest epic, currently playing in theaters all around the world and in an IMAX theater near you, most likely. Let us know that and more down below. What did you think of this movie? Who were some of your favorite people in it? How did it make you feel? What was your take on the black and white stuff? Michelle in chat said that she felt the black and white film portion was a representation of the old newsreels of kind of like the political hearings and stuff. I think that's a very good read on as well. But guys, we want to know, what did you think of this, and what did you think of the show overall? If you liked the show overall, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe while you are down there. We are almost to 520 subscribers. We thank you guys so much for that. We've been seeing some upward momentum lately. I can't promise you guys a Secret Invasion review tomorrow. I am just so out on that show at this point. I'm gonna watch it. I did put one up for episode 5, but it's, I don't know. I'm just so beyond out on that show. It just like fizzled out like crazy. I don't even understand it, but I am still going to be watching it. And if there's like, a big post-credit scene or something, I'll probably put up a video. I'll probably put up a video either way, but I do work very early in the morning. So we'll see. But TJ, you want to close this out? What else you want to talk about? And subscribe on the podcast feed.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. I've been another host, TJ Cornwall. Thank you for watching. Let us know what you thought about any of the movies in the comments below, or any of the other topics we talked about today. Please like, comment, subscribe. Follow us on all our social medias, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. And we will see you next time.
Boom.